When you're ready to add a 3D model, you can either go to the model view or on the top right, add a new model. You could connect to the Autodesk Construction Cloud and synchronize the models and their versions from ACC. You could upload a model from your computer, or you could connect into one that's already in your file manager somewhere, being uploaded already. There are many different formats that you can import, everything from Revit, IFC, DWG, Navisworks files, SketchUp files. Once they get uploaded, they get normalized so that every single model looks the same and all of the properties are standardized in a way that you can review them. So let's take a look and show you what happens. I'm going to simply drag and drop a model into the view. It will ask for some metadata to be completed, and then it will start the upload process. And you can leave this screen and come back to it, but essentially it will be available to you next time you come back after it's processed. There are a few things that happen to the model when it gets uploaded. One is that it gets processed for a lightweight web-viewable format, so it makes it super lightweight when you're in the browser. Another one is that we will index all of the properties so that they can be reviewed against the requirements that you've set, and you'll see it starting to be processed in the browser. You can always come back after working in other views, so we can go back to the scope, for example, work in your scope, do some things in the scope, and then come back when it's ready. And you'll also get an email to tell you when this model has finished. You'll see your 3D view appear, and then the model will start indexing, and it will index every one of the 3D views that you have in your model. And then once it's indexed, all of the properties are available and they have been matched to the task. So the connection between the two can happen in a couple of different ways. You can either add a rule at the top level at the model and connect all elements with a certain property to a task property, or you can in each task link and go and find elements that you would like to connect to this task. So a property from the model that you would like to then connect in with a property value, or you could have a combination of the two. Before we take a look at how we connect the two, let's take a look around the model. If I click on the full screen button, we go to full screen of the 3D model. There are different ways that we can navigate. One is by using the left click and drag to rotate. That will rotate about a pivot point. If you are not pivoting about the point you want to, you can right click on an element and then choose to pivot around that point. So you can see how this is now pivoting around the corner, versus if I was to right click and then pivot around this object here. You can see there's a little orbit point as I orbit. One other thing that we might want to do is double click on an element, and that will not only zoom to it, select it, and also it will pivot around that object as well. There are a few different things that we can do when we select an object. We could, if we wanted to, we could isolate that object, and depending on the view preferences that you have defined in the settings, you will see potentially either nothing around it, or you would see the lines that represent the elements. Here is the setting here. If you choose settings and choose the ghost hidden objects, you would see them or not see them in the back. There are a number of different settings that you might want to take a look at as well. If you are selecting one object and isolating, you will see the show all button when you're not seeing everything in the model. Clicking the show all will simply show you everything and zoom to the extent of that model. In a 3D model, you might want to choose this first person view. If I click on the first person view and then I double click where I want to move, it will then move me to that location. I can orbit around and start seeing like a gaming mode where you can move with the arrow keys. By moving this, you can start to move around the building. One of the things that you might want to do is hit the escape key a couple of times. Here it will remove that same walk mode, so I'll now go back into the orbit mode. If I wanted to measure something, then I could choose the measure, and there are angles and distances. There are different snapping points as well. This is a snap point to the middle. If we want to see it in different units, we can change the measurement settings. Sometimes you might want to hit the home, which will zoom to and rotate the model so you can see back to the original home state. Other cool features are selecting a specific object type, and then in the top corner here we can see select higher level, and this will start to go up certain element trees that can be seen in the model tree on the right hand side. Here we've selected simply all of the structural foundations by a couple of clicks, but we can also see individual parts of this and certain pile caps and understand the makeup of this. Each and every element has properties. So if you select an element, you'll see the list of properties. If you do not have this showing already, there is a setting that you can choose to display the property. If you select the navigation and then zoom to the bottom, open properties on select. So if I have this one turned off and I select an object I can then go to the properties of this and see those properties of that object. I like to have that turned on so that every time I select on an object, it shows up, and then when I deselect, it goes away again. Another cool tool is to select a specific object like the pile cap, select all of them, and then potentially pull that away. Use the group elements by category. This will grab all of those elements out of the building and put them into a set so that you can evaluate them independent. Maybe there are specific sizing or certain properties that you want to evaluate. It's a little bit easier when they're all in one place rather than inside of the model. And then showing the rest of the model, set them back and let them flow back into the building. There are a lot of different tools that we can use to understand what's in the model. We even have the ability to take cross sections through the model. As we introduce this cross section, you can see it cuts the elements and identifies that cut surface. You can take cross sections on a vertical, a horizontal, and also on a crazy angle if you wanted to. Up to you. As you go through this model, there's a lot of ways that we can interrogate it. So there you have it, lots of different ways to review a 3D model, to see it, understand it, and to interrogate what's in that model. In the next few videos, we'll be looking at how we automatically connect the elements in the model to the tasks that we have in the Kanban board, the same tasks that are represented in the scope that are defined, and automatically check these requirements. So remember, don't plan late, plan early with Plannerly.